Again,
Part of 25.
yeah. Good morning, everybody. Again, we're going to be in Acts chapter 25, verse 1. We're going to start right there with Paul's trial before Festus. It says, "Now when Festus has come to the province after 3 days, he went up from Caesarea to Jerusalem. Then the high priest and the chief men of the Jews informed him against Paul, and they petitioned him, asking a favor against him, that he would summon him to Jerusalem, while they lay in ambush along the road to kill him. But Festus answered that Paul should be kept at Caesarea, and that he himself was going there shortly." I'll stop right there on verse 4. So we see that when Felix is replaced, Paul's Jewish accusers decide to do what? Retry him, right? Retry the case against Paul. Okay, so now, do you think it was all of Festus' doings there, or do you think God had a plan for Paul? Again, we heard in the last chapter or two that Jesus said what to Paul in a vision?
That he was going to Rome.
He was going to Rome, right?
Yeah,
So he said, "Be of good cheer." So this ambush, there was no way it was going to happen in the first place, would it? If Jesus promised us that something that's going to happen, it's going to happen, isn't it? Absolutely. So we see here that when Festus had come to the province after 3 days, he went up to Caesarea to Jerusalem, and then the high priest and the chief men of the Jews informed him against Paul, and they petitioned him, asking a favor against him, that he would summon him to Jerusalem, while they lay in ambush along the road to kill him. We see in Acts chapter 24, ending with the transition from the governorship of Ananias Felix to that of Porcius Festus. Felix was undoubtedly a bad man, but history tells us that Festus was basically a good man. He governed well despite all the problems left him by Felix. So does that sound like some of the administrations that we have? We have some good and some bad, don't we? We have some good, some people that are bad and they leave it bad, and then the good comes in and has to clean up after them, right? Well, this is basically what Festus was having to do. He came in and had to clean up. And we noticed also in the last chapter when we talked about how the Sadducees and Pharisees came to Felix, didn't they? With flattery. Remember that? They came to him with flattery because they knew he was a harsh governor, right? Okay, so as we continue there, it says on verse 5, "Therefore he said, let those who have authority among you go down with me and accuse this man to see if there is any fault in him." And when he had remained among them more than 10 days, he went down to Caesarea. And the next day, sitting on the judgment seat, he commanded Paul to be brought. When he had come, the Jews who had come down from Jerusalem stood about and laid many serious complaints against Paul, which they could not prove. While he answered for himself, "Neither against the law of the Jews, nor against the temple, nor against Caesar have I offended in anything at all." But Festus, wanting to do the Jews a favor, notice that, answered Paul and said, "Are you willing to go up to Jerusalem there and be judged before me concerning these things?" Excuse me. So Paul said, "I stand at Caesar's judgment seat where I ought to be judged. To the Jews I have done no wrong, as you very well know. For if I am an offender or have committed anything deserving of death, I do not object to dying. But if there is nothing to these things of which these men accuse me, no one can deliver me to them. I appeal to Caesar." Then Festus, when he had conferred with the council, answered, "You have appealed to Caesar. To Caesar you shall go." So, what's going on here?
Shirking his job.
That's right. Absolutely.
Passing it on.
Yeah. So we see here that Paul's going to go before Agrippa, right? It says, and after some days, King Agrippa and Bernice came to Caesarea to greet Festus. When they had been there many days, Festus laid Paul's case before the king, saying, there is a certain man left a prisoner by Felix, about whom the chief priests and the elders of the Jews informed me when I was in Jerusalem, asking for a judgment against him. To them I answered, it is not the custom of the Romans to deliver any man to destruction before the accused meets the accusers face to face and has opportunity to answer for himself concerning the charges against him. Therefore, when they had come together without any delay, the next day I sat on the judgment seat and commanded the man to be brought in. And when the accusers stood up, they brought me no accusations against him of such things I supposed, but had some questions against him about their own religion and about a certain Jesus who had died, whom Paul affirmed to be alive. And because I was uncertain of such questions, I asked whether he was willing to go to Jerusalem and there be judged concerning these matters. And when Paul appealed to be reserved for the decision of Augustus, I commanded him to be kept till I could send him to Caesar. Excuse me. Then Agrippa said to Festus, I also would like to hear the man myself. Tomorrow, he said, you shall hear him. So the next day, when Agrippa and Bernice had come with great pomp and had entered the auditorium with the commanders and the prominent men of the city of Festus, and Festus commanded Paul to be brought in. And Festus said, King Agrippa, and all the men who are here present with us, you see the man about whom the whole assembly of the Jews petitioned me, both at Jerusalem and here, crying out that he was not fit to live any longer. But when I found that he had committed nothing deserving of death, and that he himself had appealed to Augustus, I decided to send him. I have nothing certain to write to my Lord concerning him. Excuse me. Therefore, I have brought him out before you, and especially before you, King Agrippa, so that after examination has taken place, I may have something to write. For it seems to me no unreasonable to send a prisoner and not to specify the charges against him. All right. So what do you think, you guys? What do you think is going to happen? Some would think that was a downhill spiral for Paul. But
I would think that the information that God is giving to Paul of an importance is, leading it for future generations, to know. But at the same time, I agree. It wouldn't be the bad. It would be the bad for the Jewish, the people that condemned him, or whatever,
Right.
But him himself, when God's right beside him, God's going to take it through wherever through His strength.
Right. Now, did he go about it the right way, do you think? It says first, then the high priest and the chief men of the Jews informed him against Paul. It says, though it had been 2 years, the case of Paul was still important to the religious leaders. They hoped to make Paul appear before them again in Jerusalem. So we can see here that Paul stayed there for 2 years. And during that, 2 years, he had what? Free reign. It was like house arrest. He had free reign to go and do and preach and whatever, right? So it says this generous imprisonment to Caesarea was actually a provisional provision of protected custody against the murderous intentions of religious leaders. It was also a season of rest and replenishment after his years of hard missionary service, preparing him for the challenges in the years ahead. And these challenges would come in where? In Rome, right? Okay. Said,
It also gave him access to captive audience.
oh, absolutely.
Exactly right.
Soldiers who were assigned, even though he was free,
Right.
he was still under guard, and they were a free audience that could not leave.
Right. And we
Almost like giving your pastor a boat so he could take people fishing and get them out in the middle of the lake.
yeah.
And if they wanted out of it, they had to
Sink or
swim.
swim. Yeah. I hear you. All right, he said that would summon him to Jerusalem while they lay in ambush right along the road. The religious leaders knew that Paul would be able to be acquitted in any fair trial, didn't they? So they did what? They lay in ambush. They were going to ambush him and kill him, right? Because they knew that once he got in front of somebody, there was no evidence to hold him, no evidence to convict him of any crime. And so, God would get him off. And so they lay in ambush to, but a wrench was thrown in their plan, wasn't it? Somebody threw a wrench in their spokes. So we see here that the religious leaders, their actions show the danger of religion that is not in true contact with God. If your religion makes you a liar and a murderer, there is something wrong with your religion. Absolutely. We see that Festus answered Paul, and said he should be kept in Caesarea, and that he would come down there to see him, right? And so he did. And what happened then? I just read it to you guys. Come on now. I just read it. Stop, Rick. Rick, you can't answer all the questions. So Festus was willing to give Paul a trial again, wasn't he?
He was gonna
To resolve all the matters, to get everything out in the open. Yet he insisted that it would happen in Caesarea, not in Jerusalem.
That's correct. Yeah.
Right? And so we see Festus reopening the trial in Caesarea, right? So sitting on the judgment seat, he commanded Paul to be brought in front of him. And once again, Paul's trial before a Gentile ruler accused by religious leaders as before Paul's life was in danger should be found guilty, right? They thought he was found guilty. They laid many serious complaints against Paul, which they what? Said they could not prove, right? So I mean, you can,
like something's going on now.
yeah, I mean, you can complain about all kinds of stuff, and everything. But it says, as before, the religious leaders made accusations without evidence against Paul. In response, Paul confidently rested on both the evidence and his apparent integrity. That's the very first thing he did when he came in. And whenever they brought him before the courts and the crowd, even when he spoke over the crowd, he told them that he had done no wrong, and he stood on those merits, right?
That's why the importance of the edification of the Word of God is about truth. It's about fact-checking, truth, and edification for our everyday lives. And it holds a key importance to how we should learn to strive to live our daily lives. And by him going from Jerusalem to Caesarea, and Caesarea, the open audience, he has an open audience there. God is giving them to give that word in that mission, and another mission spread.
Right.
That's amazing.
Well, we see here that Festus wanted to do the Jews a favor, though, didn't he? Again, this shows the integrity and honesty of Festus, right? It says, Festus, wanting to do the Jews a favor, answered Paul and said, are you willing to go to Jerusalem and there be judged before me concerning these things? And so Paul said, I stand at Caesar's judgment seat where I ought to be judged. To the Jews I have done no wrong, as you very well know.
Straightforward.
Again, straightforward, very confident in the fact that he had done no wrong. And again, we know as far as the scripture goes that Paul was very educated. He knew the law. He was a Pharisee.
Oh, yeah.
And he was a Roman citizen.
Do you think it was just willy-nilly that he appealed to appear before the judgment seat of Caesar?
No. No, that was God's plan.
That was God's plan.
You know.
So there's an importance behind that. God has time for everything. We don't understand it sometimes. But he knows what he's doing, and he's got it lined out for us every day, part of our life.
Well, Festus was caught in a rock and a hard spot too. After a couple of questions, he figured out real quick in a hurry that he was going to have to change his strategy, didn't he?
Yeah.
And
The whole reason Pilate condemned Jesus,
because the crowd.
well, because the Jews had already written, I believe it was Augustus, about how bad his rulership was. Augustus had written to Pilate telling him, do not upset the Jews. So here he was between the Jews and Augustus. He had to appease the Jews and keep them from reporting him back to Augustus. But yet he knew
Right.
Christ was innocent because he kept saying, I find nothing
Guilty.
Yeah.
Man guilty of nothing. And here we see also that Festus found it difficult to decide the case. Since Paul, standing as a Roman citizen, apparently prevented Festus from commanding the trial to be moved to Jerusalem. So he asked Paul about this. He said, is it interesting to wonder if Festus knew of the plot to murder Paul or not? If he did know, then he knowingly asked Paul to walk into an ambush and be murdered. If he did not know, then he merely thought that this would please the religious leaders to have the trial in Jerusalem, which is what Rick's saying.
I thought earlier we found out that he did know, and that's why he had that on. He's going.
Yeah.
Well, that was the one before. See, Festus took over from
Felix.
Felix. Yeah. Felix kept him 2 years, and then Festus took over. The commander that was in Jerusalem found out that they were trying to kill him, and that's when he sent, 400 horsemen?
No, 200.
200?
200 horsemen. 200 spearmen. Yeah.
That's
400 men.
Yeah, basically, yeah. 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 That was. That was.
I said, the guy waiting, laying the face for him said,
Chapter 23.
jump on him.
Yeah, that's chapter 23, verse 23 says, and he called for 2 centurions, saying, prepare 200 soldiers, 70 horsemen and 200 spearmen to go to Caesarea at the 3rd hour of the night, and provide mounts to set Paul on. Agrippa and Bernice came to Caesarea. So Herod Agrippa II ruled a client kingdom of the Roman Empire to the northeast of Festus' province. Agrippa was known as an expert in Jewish customs and religious matters. Though he did not have jurisdiction over Paul in this case, his hearing of the matter would be helpful for Festus. In other words, that's why they brought him in, wanted to hear all the complaints and accusations against him. As if King Agrippa could give any kind of information to Festus so that he could write something down. Right? And that's what he says at the very last part of the chapter. I brought him to you so that I might have something to write down. In other words, brought him to you so that, if there's anything that we can get against him and will get against him, you will get it out and I'll be able to write it down. Because these people right here have just complaints that have no convictions.
At least it ain't Lucy on Charlie and the Peanuts gang in for 5 cents of your time.
Right?
That's just a joke.
So what happened when so Festus got in front of King Agrippa? What did he do? Yeah, pretty much. He said, saying, this is a certain man left a prisoner by Felix. So he pretty much gave everybody that was there, the elders and all that were there, he gave them a rundown of how he did it, and this and how Paul came to be where he is today. The same way Paul was done previously, when he was brought to Felix, right? They did the same thing. They appeased the Felix, and they said, well, we brought him, oh, excellent Felix, we brought this, and then now we did this, this, and this, and now he's in front of you. Well, the same thing he did in front of King Agrippa. So we see that he went through in process form, like they had a legal process that they went through, so that everybody could hear the evidence, everybody could get the big picture on how things were done and why they were there at that specific time and place for the conviction, and not to specifically charges against him. We know that that Festus simply could not send Paul to Caesar with a letter that said, I really don't know why this man is accused of, and what he's accused of, and he is probably innocent of any wrongdoing, but I thought I'd send him to you anyway. You just can't do that. And so this is why they brought him.
Why you couldn't lie about that?
Well, you can only get so far on a lie too. And then after you get so far on the lie, then guess what? Yeah, the lie tells on itself. So, but we see here that it seems to me, that, like it says, Paul was so innocent that Festus could not actually describe or specify the charges against him. Again, Paul was a great debater too, you guys.
Oh yeah.
So don't get it wrong. I mean,
He was.
But there again,
Yes.
Paul also had what? He had God, Jesus
Yes,
God in his back,
Sure.
backing him too. He'd done no wrong. And you know what the Bible tells us, the truth shall set you free.
That's right.
Even
That's
though,
implication.
now you think, after all this though, 2 years has gone by, you would have thought the religious leaders would have just, forgotten about him.
Yeah.
But they couldn't have forgot about him. You know why? Again, like Rick said, he had a captive audience for 2 years. And all they were listening to was Paul preaching on Christ. And so, do you think during that 2 years, this is my question for today, do you think during that 2 years that he was in house arrest or captivity there, do you think that there was people being converted?
Yeah.
I would say yes.
Well, we know there were.
Yeah, absolutely.
When he gets to Rome, it says that most of the Praetorian Guard
Were converted.
were converted by Paul.
Yeah. So, absolutely. I am done a little bit early today. I'm 5 minutes early.
Well, you can always light one firework, and you can see a little bit of a difference. If you imagine a bunch of bottle rockets,
Yeah.
you get the picture.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
That's from the standpoint. Where Jesus Christ keeps us.
That went real far, didn't it?
So, with that being said, Brother Frank, close us in a word of prayer, sir.
Dear Heavenly Father, we do thank you for this day, Lord.
That's right.
We thank you for this message being brought forward and everything. Thank you for everything that you've done for us. We ask that you continue to guide our paths, Lord. Show us the way and help us to apply these words to our lives and our hearts, Lord.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Be with us as we go into the song service and the preaching afterwards, Lord. Keep us safe as we go our separate ways. Bring us back to the morning. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.